trying to construct a new Eiffel Tower. Right, okay. Okay. Sorted. We were just about to lose power then as well. So, okay. So, like I say, we'll make a note, skip the first, say, 10 minutes. And again, apologise for being late. So we had to choose between this or not coming on at all. And it just didn't seem right. How many times has that happened to us? Too many. So we weren't going to let it go down this way this time. So let's try again. Let's get Bodski to give us a count of 5 and then see if you can all hear it. Go for it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Can you guys hear that okay? That's 1 yes. Anybody else? Give us a yes. Yep. That sounds good. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Gillian, by the way, sorry about that title coming out. It was literally one of our last video, and I didn't know it didn't reset the title. So huge apologies that title came out. It was literally a hangover from the last live that I tried in that way. So I got it down as quick as possible. My apologies. Right. Okay. So our man, you've seen Bodski in the comments or whatever else, and you may not have done. Bodski has what some might consider to be alternative, some might consider alternative views, and some might not. So I've had this thing about people who do research and stuff like that, and that is that you don't need to. Like when Gillian came on, for instance, she knew what she needed to say. So a lot of people want me to micromanage and prompt things, and I don't think that needs to be done for a person that knows what they want to say. So with that said, you know, I always end up getting caught into the conversation as I get too interested. So I want to welcome Bodski to the show and say hello, my man.
Hello, my man.
And just to show you that he's really there. He is over here on this. I just haven't got the time to get the angle right. So there he is. Okay, so again, I do apologise for the lack of audios in this. And I just really didn't want my face up on this. If you have the patience while we're talking, I may just angle the camera around. But I just don't want to waste any more of your time. So, Bodski, my man, you've come on. We talked about you coming on for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. Was it a couple of weeks by now? And there were some things that you came on and you said that you felt you had some things that people didn't know. People would maybe be a bit red-pilled by. You certainly had some strong conviction that that you know you felt there was sort of certain stuff that people were just not seeing. So, but before we can go there, the one thing that we would, I suppose that everybody would need is how you'd sort of sum up yourself and why we should care. Yeah. So give us the kind of premise of that part first, so we can kind of get our teeth into it.
I'm just trying to think. I went through quite a traumatic time, maybe about 6-7 years ago. Ex-partner, etc. She was making up stories, police, etc. Ended up with a conviction because she said so and I had no witnesses. So I got a conviction for Section 30 or something like that. Anyway, cut a long story short, because I knew that I'd done nothing wrong, thought, we'll go through the trial and everything, but I never got to trial. You're never allowed to get to trial. The same as like Tommy was never allowed to get to trial. But there's a whole shitstorm that comes with that and along with it.
Okay. Okay, sorry, bear with me. And so something we wanted to say was that what method. So you've talked about the research. So what methods of research have you used to come up with what you've come up with?
Well, as I say,
how long would you say it's been going on for, as well? To add to that,
6-7 years, and I've never stopped fighting against it. But then when you start making these claims against say the police or the justice system or whatever, the complaints procedure is there, and there's so many levels that it pisses you off unless you've got the time and the energy to continue doing the research and sending these letters. It's there as a deterrent. Plus, into the bargain, when you reach the upper echelons of making a claim or a complaint, they all syndicate, and it's just there as a. The way I put it is, Esther Ranson set up Childline to filter out the kids that were reporting the MPs and the police, etc. That was a filter operation, so that they got to the children before. Dolphin Square in London, for argument's sake, was renowned. The police were told within that square they were not to get involved. There was kids running away, bleeding, etc. from this place. But where does it stop? It's everywhere, at all levels. So, we are the banker's plaything, if you want.
So before we go down this route, I think it was something that you wanted people to know, and I certainly, from listening to you, want people to know is this. Even if this went into be a couple of hour podcast, there's no way that everything could be covered. So we decided to look at this as an octopus with arms, and so we're going down a particular arm tonight with this. And what we're going to do is we're going to give some context. We're going to start around Tommy Robinson's sentencing,
yes,
and then we're going to kind of work out from there. So because it gives everyone some context and a place to start. Okay, so and that's the audience and everything else. So and again, I don't really believe people like Bodski knew much prompting, and I use Gillian as my example because of how anybody's done the research, they know what they want to say and they know what they need to say. So let's go to the day of Tommy's trial.
Okay.
Sorry, not Tommy's trial. Sorry, Tommy's sentencing. You wanted to particularly focus on.
Well, we could go for the whole court system straight away.
Okay.
Where do you go?
Oh, I'm here, buddy.
Sorry, I thought you were saying. Sorry. The court system is set up in such a way. In fact, let's cut to the chase. No man or woman, I don't want this to be mistaken as free man in the land bullshit. Don't mistake the accent. Sovereign citizen, well, that's a different kettle of fish. This stuff's real. You can go and look it up, go and research it. But I don't want to really jump about with birth certificates. It's where to begin. It's all tied with that piece of paper. And we keep representing that piece of paper. That piece of paper is not you. It's not yours. It's the Crown's. It's a bonded piece of paper.
Would you call it a bill of sale?
It's a trust. It's a trust that is set up in every single one of our names. As soon as we are recorded as a live birth, we become a fact. But then they create the straw man, if you want. And I hate using that word.
Me
It's
too.
the best word. It is the best word for it, because as soon as people hear straw man, they go, oh, here we fucking go. Seriously, it flabbergasts me. And I've had this knowledge for a number of years now. Sheep, we're not even sheep. We are beneath that. Because to see this, it's such a slight degree to the left or the right, where lies the truth. We were educated for a reason. Programming, that's why the TV's called programs. Programming is there to null your mind and put you into a trance. Anyway, back to the court. There's no court in this land that serves justice. There's no interest in justice. The reason that the courts mostly look, the larger ones certainly, look like banks is because they are banks. They're there to collect revenue or create revenue. And we blindly walk into the courtroom and stand within a dock where the gate is closed on you. We're made to believe that we need a solicitor. The solicitor has no allegiance to you whatsoever. They'll take your money, but their first allegiance is the Crown. Their second allegiance goes to the court. Nothing to do with you or I, because we have walked into the court and stood within the dock and confirmed the name that's on the birth certificate. They're not looking for you. They're looking for the trust, which is worth money, and they want to take your money that you don't even know you've got.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It's almost like you're a vassal for that kind of transaction.
sorry?
It's like you're a vassal for that kind of transaction.
Well, basically, that's what it is. You know, when people say, well, you've got to realise that the roadways are the Queen's highways, but in law, it's the Queen's waterways. And we drive on it. That hence the reason the joinder that we just voluntarily walk into with the police, and we start giving details that we can't clarify. What's your date of birth? Well, I can't really tell you that because I wasn't conscious enough to tell what Mum told me.
Yeah.
It says in my birth certificate, but what it says in your birth certificate cannot be used for any ID. It's Crown copyright, it's no yours. You've got a certificate, an excerpt of the certificate, or a copy of the certificate. Basically, it's a V5 for human beings.
It's a what, sorry?
V5 document for human beings. You know, there's the other fraud as well. Go and buy a car at 40 grand, but you need to register it. Registration just means you're handing over ownership. The same as what we've done with our children. We were disillusioned into signing and registering our children, which in actual fact contracts with the government as part-time employees until they're able and fit and old enough to work themselves to be a tax slave.
So you said, I mean, we're actually maybe going quicker than I thought, but that's actually fine. So I'll go straight into it. You have mentioned the banks and
yes.
How you feel that. Well, I'll let you say it.
The protest should be against them.
Yeah, yeah. So would you expand on that, please?
Well, everything again is tied to the courts as well. See the sheriff or the judge or whatever they call them, the ones that are sitting up high. Would it surprise you if I was to tell you that because he's sitting up there high, he's got nothing to do with the court? If you're in a dock, you're not there either. It's called the Four Corners Rule. It's all to do with contract, maritime law. You can't have a box or a different level within a court. A court is a level playing field. If it's not level, it is not a court. But you shouldn't be there anyway, because you're in a dock as an imbecile. Yes, no, basically that's what it is. That's why you must have an attorney to talk for you. Right. Because you're an idiot. And when you find out the stuff I'm talking about, you then go, fuck, I never realised that. Seriously. And that's how big the deception is. The sheriff or the judge is not the judge. At the most, he's a clerk of the court.
Right, right.
Warrants as well. There's no judge in the land can actually write a warrant to come and take the personal property being you and I. So, it's not allowed. It's because, one, there's the fear. Two, obviously, education that creates the fear. And our stupidity to just bow to these people that are meant to be in authority when they're not in authority. There's nobody higher than you and I. Well, we put these people into power, the government, the justice system, etc. So how can they make judgment? A man or a woman make a judgment and another man or a woman?
Yeah, no.
And it's just all deception and fraud, sleight of hand, the use of words, tic-tac-toe between the sheriff and the prosecutor and the judges and everybody else in the court. And the only people that don't have a clue what's happening is you or I.
Just to be clear, I mean, just to be clear, when you made the reference to cattle, that wasn't an analogy. You were quite literal about that, weren't you?
Totally, 100%. What you've got to think of at this day, you'll need to forgive me, everybody, because I do go off in tangents, but everyone makes a big story. Vaccinations. As soon as you come out your mum's far out of the sunroof, the nurse has got a big jag in your arse, which has got about 86 different chemicals in it. I think it works out of 5 different inoculations. Now, I used to think that was to protect us and stuff like that, but how do you build up an immunity if they're doing it synthetically? So there's got to be another reason for putting that in us. Right, my reckoning, just the opinion, is as soon as you're born, they've got to retard our brain. Why have we got a brain the size of this? For what? Because they retard us so that we're more malleable when it comes to the education system. Plus, in the bargain,
would you say?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Would you say that when we see some of these, some of these inoculations and things going wrong, and they have these massively bad effects on the brain and stuff, do you think that's kind of revealing what's behind it when they?
Right. Here's the best way to think about it, right? You can set aside, obviously, electromagnetism for mobile phones and everything. You've got to remember, these jags only really come into existence, what, the 50s? Well, there was herd inoculation called herd coverage. That's what they call it. Just like the same as, that's why there's a lot of feminists jumping about going, I'm not calling my man my husband, because it's all to do with farming, animal husbandry. That's why they're called husband. The wife is only there, as far as the elites are concerned, is to lie there and give each other Portuguese breakfasts, etc. You know, and that's all the woman's meant to be. So maybe Islam is really that wrong. I'm kidding. Bye. So animal husbandry comes into the water. Everything's to do with water. We're meant to be, so we're told, what, 75 or 95% water.
Yeah, I think it's right. About in the 90s, yeah.
Everything's to do with water. As soon as you're born, you come out the birth canal. You're being birthed. So you become a fact that needs to be the attention of the doctor. So you're then treated as soon as you're born as cargo, your mother's cargo, and you're registered by a foundling hospital. They're the people that grass you up to the government, or your parents up to your government, to say there's been a child been born, a future tax slave, here's the certificate of live birth. They send that to the registrar, and they then know that there's a baby. And they threaten you for £1,000 if you don't register the baby, blah, blah, blah. And what they're doing there is they're not declaring any terms or conditions of a contract between the state and your parents. And your parents, I've done it as well with my son. I've basically written my son off and gave him to the government as a tax slave, future tax slave. That's how they can walk into any one of our houses and go, we're taking the children. You can't either mine, nor they're ours, and they've got every right to say that because we unwittingly sold our children.
Well, yeah, so I mean, I'm jumping ahead a little, but I think oh, what was that? Oh, I think the people on the channel are quite following. So. So I wanted to talk about the birth certificate.
So you ended up in vaccinations instead of the court.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Wherever we go is where we go. I just wanted to give us some frames of reference, but I think everyone's pretty much on board from what I'm seeing. So we're open.
For instance, see the HPV jag that I dare say the majority of people have got certainly their daughters, what's known as forced inoculation or forced vaccination, because you don't get given a choice. Just like a baby, if you don't give the baby the injections, then you've been disobedient to the owner, the master, if you want, which is the state. And they make sure you don't get any credits or benefits or anything. They shut you down if you don't have your children inoculated.
So a question for you. We talked briefly about how they've made state and child estranged more in recent times and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I don't understand about all this is, okay, they had a family unit in what they had before with let's just call it the Christian unit for the sake of argument. Yeah, there was a Christian idea of a family. So what I don't understand is, surely they were getting from that unit everything they wanted, and it was under control. So why have they weakened that unit so much when it in a way it was kind of controllable as it was? What is it extra that they're trying to gain? Because now,
well, what you've got to remember is Britain is the most surveilled country in the whole planet, and it has been for a number of years. Ideally, I mean, it's always been the plan. Ideally, what they want to do is move everybody out of the country, stackers and packers and multi-stories, etc., train lines next to it. It becomes Nazi Germany. But that's still the plan, and that's still how it works. It worked for the Nazis, or it'll work for anybody else that comes along and does the same. And that's the whole point of it. So you've got Planned Parenthood in America. I think they've murdered 11 million black babies just to kind of regulate the population, obviously, because they're getting out of hand, etc., etc. So they've done that. Bill Gates and his wife.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry.
No, carry on, please carry on.
Bill Gates and his wife Heads pioneered this. I mean, you only need to listen to his TED interview where he turns around and says, we can manage the world's population as long as we cut down one of these figures. And the one figure that he goes for that's easiest to get rid of is us. So if they do the right inoculations, etc., they'll be able to reduce the world's population. I mean, I stand there, TED, obviously on the stage, talking this shit, telling us. I mean, there
was something I saw recently, to your point. There's something I saw recently, and I've been trying to track down why it's suddenly become, amongst the intellectuals, there's a theory that seems to be surfacing recently, and I'm like, well, where's this come from? Because these people are normally people that rely on genuine kind of research, and what they've been saying is they believe that the world's population is going to peak at about 9.5 billion. Well, at the rate that we've been growing, where on earth have they got that from? And why is that so amongst the intellectual class, that's become like
fear.
The new truth.
Fear. Just fear. The same with this Islamic thing and everything, right? They've been triggered, but they've been triggered for the reason. We all know that reason, because in 20, 30 years ago, I never really heard that anything to do with Islam or Muslims or anything. We're lucky in Scotland, obviously, they're not quite. We resisted the Romans, so Islam's having a shot. It's just, everything's a lie. I'm sorry, guys, but everything you think you know and you think you understand is wrong, and that's a massive statement. But everything's a fucking lie. Total lie.
So give people because a statement like that, people need more context. So give them a great example of exactly what you're saying there. Just one example.
Albeit the moan that they've not got enough money, etc. We've got a national health service that's got nothing to do with keeping us healthy. It's there to keep us sick. We've got solicitors that are meant to be representing us. They're not interested in us at all. At all. Why do you think at the end of the go, we've got to do a deal? We do a deal for money. What they're doing is they're dividing up the money between the banker, your attorney, and the prosecution. That's it, going a free way. How much will you accept if we do this? It's all to do with money. Your money.
So it seems to be this thing as well, and I remember Julian saying it. I remember a friend of mine saying, a few people have said that the one trap that we're in is by the moment that we engage in something, we've legitimized it. The moment we engage in a certain speech, a certain document, the moment that we even answer to it,
write it down.
Say again, sorry?
The moment you write it down, it becomes fact. It then becomes, within the four corners rule, that bit of paper that you've written on is your vessel in court. It's just,
yeah.
You need to get into all. It's maritime. Everything's water. We're water. The law's water. Everything to do with water. You could even call the coppers land pirates, which sometimes get thrown about, because that's what they are. They don't wear fucking black and white check for no reason. They represent piracy on the land. They don't even know that. Listen, I went to the cop shop and had a meeting with a couple of inspectors, and within 8 minutes I had this inspector rocking back in his chair, with his arms folded, smirking at me. I'm going, what are you smirking at? Am I boring you? Is it what? You know what I'm saying? He went, no, David, he says, to be honest, I don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about. So he get a couple of the young coppers in that had done the modules. And all I said to him was, do you know and understand the Cesta KV Trust of 1666? They went, I don't even know what you fucking said, pal, let alone what you were meaning. Right, 4 of them was proceeded to come in. What about you? Don't know. What about you? Don't know. I had this inspector say, what would you suggest we do? Do we get you in for a talk? I says, are you joking? I would never be allowed to tell your officers or your group of officers the stuff that I'm talking about, because one, half of them would be like, you're off your heat and I'm going to battle you in the back of your Sherpa van. And the other half will be going, I never fucking joined up for this. That guy's right.
Yeah.
You know? So, and then you go with people, well, how far up does it go if the inspector doesn't understand these words? Is it chief inspector? Is it the commander? Is it riding on the crest of the dick?
Well, ignorance can go up any direction up, can't it? I mean,
you know, people, the biggest one to explain the fraud, if you want, and I'm sorry I need to bring NASA into it. Do we all seriously believe that we landed on that big white disc up in the sky? How do people, but we must have landed on the moon, because that would have meant that the scientists would have needed to know about it. No, none of them knew about it. They all had a job to do. They went to their unit, done their job, and that was the end of their job. What they seen in the screens might have been 300 yards down the road in Stanley Kubrick's fucking basement. That's right, it was. So, a lot of evidence for it, but because we've seen, I didn't. 69, I was probably still in my father's scrotum at some point. In 1969, so I don't know. I can imagine what it was like. The TV was shite, it was still black and white, it was dead grey, it was electrical interference. And seeing that in 1969 must have been exhilarating.
Absolutely.
But just because they show you pictures and give you a story, a narrative over it, doesn't make it true. You know, you can go to Iraq 10, 12 years ago where there's folk getting blown up and everything, but it's all staged. Everything's staged for the camera. Same as all the wee fucking ragheads, sorry. Same as all the wee Muslim girls, you know, after the first London Bridge bombing. You actually seen the footage of BBC putting them in different order. Oh, you're a bit tall, right, you crouched down, right, here's a placard we've made professionally for you. Put them there. Everything's just fucking staged. 7-7, controversial. They 3 boys never got that, they trains, because they 4 trains were cancelled. What's in the bargain? If the guy was sitting inside that carriage, surely if there was any blast or bend in the metal, it would have been out the way. It was underneath because they put depth charges on the rails. They boys never done that. It was just more, let's stir the shite up. And don't forget, 7-7 was also the morning of the first day of the practice of, let's try and do a crisis management thing. Oh fuck, look, what we planned is actually happening. Kelsey, please.
So we talked a bit off channel about I said to you about how the British government would always have an actor in the enemy camp, at least one, whether they're official, whatever capacity they're in. And I said to you, okay, I accept that. And I said, well, what the question for me, and we didn't sort of get to talk about it, was how and why are people so easily divided?
How? Because it's been a plan that's been happening. It's not just when, right, Tuesday next week we're going to make everybody fall out with everybody else. This has been going on for thousands of, let's say at least 3,000 or 4,000 years. This plan has been implemented. Certainly in the 1700s, it was.
So do you feel we've been bred to be easily what's the word, divided?
Slaves. Well, just basically slaves. We shouldn't avoid that word because that's what it is. We never abolished slavery. All we done was tweak it a wee bit.
Upgrade it.
Do I mean? Because this is what I say to people. I retired at 40, right? That astounds people, right? I just decided that I was no longer going to be anybody's bitch.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if you've not got the finances behind you, you still have to be the state's bitch. And they make it difficult for people, let's drag them in again, get them off their money, make them jump through hoops, etc. I sat and thought about that. See if you don't turn up for that actual assessment. You've no signed the contract. You've no initiated a contract, so they cannot touch your money if you don't attend the assessment.
So, and I know I'm jumping back as well. But I think we're both very similar like this. And that's if you could wind clocks back, or maybe you don't even need to wind the clocks back. If you were the guy trying to look at the way of changing things, doing these protests, whatever else, and again,
the protests are basically, sorry Tom, they're basically just peasants' revolts. That's what it is. That's how they're judged. That's how they're seen. Plus, in the bargain, going for a march on Parliament on a Saturday and Sunday's a bit. They know in their own houses at the time. Nobody's listening. Nobody's interested in what we're saying because we're walking about the street and we're not doing anything about it. I'm not saying viva la the revolution, etc. All I'm trying to say is we're going to the wrong doors.
So do you think there's a peaceful way of making a change from our peasants? Occupy the banks.
Do what they done in the Arndale Centre, but do it in every bank that you can get to. So that's another way. Start telling people about the courts. The courts are just there as a revenue builder. That's what it is. It's fraud by deception, and it's also a fraudulent conveyance of language because, as I said to you earlier on, it's all to do with language. We do not speak their language. So Tommy, in whose streets is doing fuck all apart from costing us a lot of money to walk about London. That's all it is. That is all it's achieving. You can shout all you want. It's not going to make a bit of difference.
So some people are saying, well, we should engage in violence. Some people are saying we should engage in Parliament. You're saying, well, no, it's the banks.
I don't think we're near the violent stage. But we can't take our eye off of Islam. I'm sorry. You cannot take your eye off that.
Agreed.
Because it's a problem. It's a problem. We've got a problem more with the Turks. Like the Turk barbers and the boys, they've got the big cars and they're obviously picking up the white meat, etc. So we're currently watching that in Dumfries and Dundee of all places, but you can expect it in Dundee. But, as I say, we haven't really got... Well, again, you've got Chris Donald, some 15-year-old boy lifted in the way back for Glasgow Rangers Celtic game. Lifted by a gang of Pakistanis, dragged into a motor, taken away, sodomised, his cock cut off and stuck down the boy's throat, covered in a bin bag and set on fire. and then they drove about with his body about 240-mile round trip. We're not allowed to get anywhere near his area, his family area, like for any memorial or anything. Special branch has told us that if we're seen in the street, we'll get lifted. So we've kind of got a similar problem, but in a kind of microcosm, if you want.
So your opinion, I mean, I've talked about this on the show before, but your opinion, why is Islam, if it is about, let's say the figures have grown, let's say it's about 7% of the country, to take a rough guess. I know it's somewhere between 5 and 11%, so let's say 7. Mm-hmm. Why is an entire country being changed to accommodate that
part of the plan, Tom?
Yeah, so explain.
That plan's always been ongoing. It's always been an ongoing thing. Back in the history books, I'll tell you that's the whole point. It's all going towards the one world order, if you want. I hate using these cliche words.
Me too, but I understand that sometimes they're not avoidable.
As soon as you say it, it triggers people. When people go like, oh, here we fucking go. What Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati. Oh, fuck, I said it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's true though, it's true. You think Boris Johnson's running the country? Do you think Theresa May ever, do you think Maggie Thatcher ran the country? Do you think that was her decision to fuck all the Scottish mines out, steelworks, etc.? That wasn't Maggie's. There's always been that shadow hand, that octopus in the background. It's exactly the same as, but you need to start altering your chain of thought. The Prime Minister is only a Chief Executive Officer of the Corporation of the United Kingdom. That's not our country. That's the big shop, the big company, it's the big corporation. So United States, they thought they got independence, but again, that was another illusion by the bankers. They've never escaped the grasps of Great Britain. Oh, sorry, the corporation. Oh, sorry, the plantation. Oh, fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the harsh reality. We're fed the illusion of freedom. We're allowed to choose where we work. We're allowed to choose who we pump. We're allowed to choose who we have children with. We're allowed to, right? But try leaving the country or entering another country with one of their passports. You can't. But it's our birthright to be able to travel wherever we want unhindered. Well, they've got contracted to that, but they see there's ways. Again, it's the birth certificate. Because we represent that birth certificate that we hold, or our parents still got, whatever the case may be, that document is the contract. Sorry, the copy of the contract. It's not even the legitimate copy with the terms and conditions on it, because if the terms and conditions on it would waken us all earlier, we'd realise we were slaves and we'd go, oh, fuck's going on here? Right? But it just seems that the more and more the pushes, the more and more the divide is, the more and more stupid and complacent we become. We tolerate it. Why are we tolerating all these cameras all around about us? Why did we just go, that'll protect us? Then there's the fucking internet.
Oh, and there's other people who say, well, I've got nothing to hide, so what does it matter? That really does my head in.
It's a pain in the tits. We used to get it all the time. I knew a lot of the shoplifters, and they managed to get rid of them because there's no, especially when they first came out, like the 90s, right? We were probably one of the first towns to get it. Whether that's good or bad, that's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
You know, and people were saying exactly the same. Well, I've got nothing to hide. Aye, but if you let them put them in the high street and protect the shops, then there'll be the roads between the shops and your house. Then it'll be outside your house. And now that we've got these 5G hidden receivers, transmitters that they're putting in these new LED lights, which are dangerous themselves, the LED light. You know, there's some sort of phosphorus, blue phosphorus, and aluminium rains down on us. Listen, it's a fucking electromagnetic bowl of soup, man, and we're sitting in it. You never been sitting one night and all of a sudden you get a hot flush? That's not the menopause, that's just the fucking radiation. We hot flushes now and again. You can't get to sleep. Dementia's hitting and cancer's hitting. It's just,
I mean,
slowly been microwaved every day, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that we're going to the comments yet, but I'm just seeing on them as I've been going through people saying things like one of the things was that when you were mentioning the jabs and that somebody said autism had gone up 3,000% in the last, I can't remember how many years they said, but it doesn't really matter, does it? In a relatively recent history, it's gone up 3,000%.
Why is it, do you think, through history that, I mean, let's bring it up to now time. I say to my mum, you've no your flu jab, have you? Aye, I get it every year, son. And then the month after, she's dying with pneumonia.
My mum's the same, actually. That's actually same here.
And I don't get it. I'm meant to get it, so the doctor says, but again, it's more of this herd forced inoculation. For instance, statins. When statins come out, everybody had to get put on them.
Yeah,
Oh, putting statin, your cholesterol's high. We've only got these jokers words for it. Just because they're a GP doesn't mean that they're telling you the truth.
And the other thing as well is I think even if people don't align exactly with everything you're saying, I think there's a lot of people fumbling around with the same truth, even if they're coming at it from different angles. So I suppose the question from here is, if there's people, because I'm seeing, even as I'm looking at the comments coming through, you got people who are roughly on the same train, whatever angle they come from. So the question is, it seems to me that we've got all these people that believe all this. So there's one or two things happening. One is that we've got one set of people, and we're in a huge echo chamber, and we're not getting the message out any further, or we're in a position where more people just aren't listening. And I don't know which it is, but why is it that why are we still, like you said, why are we putting up with certain things? Why are we not rising against it? Is this message getting out? How do we get this message out? And how the heck? And do you think that if we start getting them, are we on the road to losing the ability to do what we're doing right now?
Yes.
How close?
2 years.
That's what I've been thinking. I mean, see, my look at it is like, you're not allowed to. Sorry.
Obviously, North Korea, and that is exactly the way it's going. And people will go, guffaw about that and everything, right? It'll never happen. But think of shit that's happened in the past 5 years. All of a sudden, we're having 6'8" guys running about in big extension, itsy and bitsy spider eyelashes with gold lame fucking bikinis on. The spiders hanging out them, walking about the street, encouraging children, telling bedtime stories, dressed like a fucking demon.
Yeah.
But we're meant to do it. Yes, okay, Islam in that primary school had the right idea, because children, I don't think that children should be told what a penis and a vagina is at age 5.
No.
I can understand why they're doing it, but you've got to look to the sinister side when it comes to children. This is part of the plan as well. You wouldn't have thought 10, 15 years ago that transgender would have been acceptable, protected. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago. You would never have dreamt of that.
Yeah, and when I asked someone, one of the protesters in London who was doing the Trump thing, and I said, we wouldn't have done this over heterosexual stuff. We didn't do this over heterosexual stuff. So why are we doing this over these other things that we can't even scientifically prove anything yet? And her answer was, well, because it's not the norm. I was like, well, you've just hit the nail on the problem. Not this.
It's a mental health. It is a mental health disease. I'm sorry whether that offends or anything, but that is what that is. It's being embraced.
Gender dysmorphia. I mean, I think it's gender dysmorphia. I brought this up as a subject, and I always get hated on for this. But the way I look at it is like this. We have not put all the scientific power that we can into asking the question, is it gender dysmorphia? Because all these fucking do-gooders are too busy going and trying to secure rights for people that we haven't even figured out whether this is a scientific thing yet. And the thing is, in the transgender community, the suicide rate is 40%. That would be ridiculous anywhere else. After having the operations that some of them want, the suicide rate is 40%. It's exactly the same. So it's really worried me that what people do is they focus on the doing good, not realizing that they're actually doing the complete opposite by not asking a slightly more difficult question. That's, is this a mental illness? Because nobody wants to admit to that and nobody wants to have that.
Right. Well, think about it this way. How do we know as individuals if we're suffering from a mental health issue? See, about 50 years ago, it was never called depression, it was just called unhappy. As soon as they started labelling things like they've done with the children, now the children have got fucking everything for dyspraxia, dyslexia, Asperger's, everybody's got a label, because that's what they want to do, is have us all hating each other, no interacting with each other, keeping us in our wee boxes, in our house, off the street. How many folk do you see walking about the street these days compared to 25 years ago? Hardly. Folk are scared to go out in case some mad machete-wielding fucking illegal immigrant dives out the back door and cuts their head off. People are scared, and that's their biggest tool. If you want, that's the biggest tool of the devil, if you want to look at it that way. You know, is the propaganda.
I went out with a friend on the Isle of Wight, and we went to all the places that we would have gone when we were younger, places where kids hang out. You know, the perfect little camp. And the point being was, you know, that for generations, there would have been kids making dens and camps and stuff like that. All gone. None of it's there anymore. It's just all gone. They don't go there anymore. It's just completely disappeared. And I don't know when that happened, but it must have been like the last 20 years or so, because I was doing it when I was a kid.
Well, you know yourself, it's computer games, etc. But again, that's to keep the children off the street, in their room, out the road. They're not bothering them if they're sitting in front of a screen.
You
can't smoke. You can't smoke going to a pub now. You've got to stand outside like a fucking dog.
And I spoke to some.
It's just.
No, sorry, it's a little bit delayed between us. Please carry on.
I mean, everything down to the minutest thing is all to do with the divide and conquer. Again, it's these fucking catchphrases. But that's what it is. You know, I've not got a close family, because that's just, it busts my tits, it upsets me, but that's just the way it is these days. And you always think it's just your family. It's every single family up and down the planet. Sorry, I don't like the planet, because that's another thing. It's just, everything's just a fucking big deception, and we've all fell for it. And see, even when you find out, and this is the other thing that I didn't like, you know, back when you start the kind of militant side of the movement, we didn't want to get out in the streets and stop. I mean, we were trying to stop Somalians coming in and being smuggled in as Syrian families, but it wasn't, it was Somalis. And these guys don't fuck about. They see a girl, you're fucking gang raped straight away. That's just their culture.
I've spoken to people actually who've been in that position, and it is straightforward like that. There's no grey area.
No fucking about. I watched one I've seen it a couple of years ago, in fairness, where the young girl gets railroaded under the wee bridge. And there's like fucking 200 of them, man. You hear her screaming, then all of a sudden you don't hear her screaming. Jeez. You know, and this is the problem. This is their culture. This comes from their country. It's everything that everybody else has ever said. Why they've been protected? Because they've got to be protected, because it's part of the plan unfolding. What they're wanting is these dirty bastards to come and breed with all their daughters, or even with ex-wives or whatever.
Yeah.
That might be a blessing. You know, then they'll have wee coffee-coloured children. Then the whole world will be like that. Listen, don't doubt for 1 minute that Islam, everything that Islam's doing on our land is a defiance. It's a sign of domination. That's what all that outside praying bullshit's about.
Mm-hmm.
Because the police will not touch them, and we can't get near them when they feel that we're racist because they are a different colour. No, it's because they're showing their arseholes to us.
Yeah.
In the street, our streets. And then they've got the cheek to go out and start with their fucking battle flags. That's the other thing I was going to say earlier on about the flags. The flags are basically signs of conquest. You know,
Yeah.
apparently Christopher Columbus or whatever, you know what I mean? He turned up and says to the Native Americans, you get a flag? No, well, we have.
Yeah.
What's all this? You get a booger pish, you talk English. And then the rest is history. But everyone's just a deception. Trump's just the president of a big corporation.
So come on, people always love this Trump subject. So come on, is Trump? I say this for tongue in cheek in some ways. Is Trump the anti-establishment guy, or is he the manufacturer's anti-establishment guy?
Listen, he's stacking bits of paper in the Wailing Wall and stuff like that. He's bowing to the Saudis, exactly the same as what the Queen does. It bows to the Sauds. So if the House of Saud is funding Britain in whatever ventures, they have a say over who's coming in. Why do you think they do? Surely common sense would kick in, but it's not. What you've got to realise is the MPs, we've been created illusion that we elect them. We don't elect them. They people are put in power by selection, and we've got nothing to do with it. All that is a fucking ritual.
Yeah.
Thursday, I better hurry up. Will I vote before my job or will I vote after it? But I've got wee Johnny to go to the football. You have to get and put a fucking retard cross in a box. As if you can't write your name.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just that's all you can do, because obviously back when they started this ploy, it was literal illiterate people that were going in, the farmers and whoever else. Couldn't read, just like the Queen. The Queen's not a highly educated woman. She was programmed how to run the country.
Yeah.
Hence the reason she's done all right for herself.
Yeah.
But again, I think they're going to dissolve that. And I think that's going to come, I don't know, it could be a conspiracy theory. Is that what the Harry Meghan thing is? So that it ends up getting to them and then they go, oh, here, fuck it, man. Let's just take our money, the Nazi gold that we've got, and fuck off. And we'll no longer have a monarchy. But I think that's coming. But the good thing is, because the Queen's reigned for so long, etc., I think we get about 7 or 8 days off.
I mean, the thing for me about the monarchy is, what's difficult for me is, and again, I'm aware of the fact that our own history is always steeped in a load of bullshit as well. But one thing I love about this island is the amount of history it has on it, and I think my only sadness with the monarchy disappearing. I mean, they've always been inbred fucks at some point. But it's the history, and when I say history, I'm talking about a bloody, horrible history. But it's nevertheless a history.
Up until House of Windsor.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? Saxe Coburg Gotha, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is their real name. I wonder why they changed their name just before the First World War when we were fighting the Germans. Oh, because they're fucking Germans. What's going on?
Yeah.
You know, and having tea and biscuits with Hitler and stuff like that. It's just an illusion. They don't forget where I was talking earlier on, Tom, about language. And when I say it's just a wee minuscule to the left or the right, and there's the truth. They always tell you the truth. That's the best lie, isn't it? 95% the truth and 5% a lie. That's the best lie. And they've been doing it for centuries.
I totally agree. That's the best form of lie that there is. The more truth you can stack into a lie, the better lie it is.
But you're not going to react to it if folk question you because you've told the truth. All you've done is alter a couple of facts along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, it's sleight of hand. We've got to get into the thinking that these people that are Parliament, we never put them there. Because we end up feeling guilty, we didn't really want how my vote didn't count. Again, it's creating divide. Red and blue. It's the same in America. Red and blue. A boxing ring. Red and blue. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just colours as well, symbolism. It's fucking everywhere. So that the government or the state or your masters can have plausible deniability. Because I've already told you, it's your fault that you're blind to those.
Well, this is the thing that I've been seeing is when I've done my quote research and and look around, what I've found is most of the what people might consider to be evil things, or whatever that have been done to us by governments and everything else, have been told to us beforehand. It actually has been said. The truth has been said. And it just slips on. It's almost like going to a Darren Brown thing where he slips things in and then shows at the end how he's done it. And it's almost like when they tell the truth, everybody says to me, you can tell when a politician's lying because the lips move. I'm like, yeah, but knowing when they're telling the truth is far more important, because it's rare, they slip it in and you don't even know it's just fucking happened to you.
Totally. It's, propaganda's a wicked tool. It really is.
It really is.
The art of propaganda, and you have people just blindly believing. You know, a perfect example. I cannot stand Professor Brian Cox. Right. His teeth and been a shite fucking keyboard player for D-Ream. Set that aside. It just annoys me all this. Everyone's fascinating, everyone. No, you're just another fucking stooge that's took an education. You've ended up with some letters before and after your name, but all you've been is programmed to perpetuate the same lie they've been telling for decades.
That's interesting.
So you challenge them. They turn around and go, oh, triggered. It's the most preposterous thing I've ever heard.
Yep.
You're just another puppet for the science. Same as that. Who's that dude for America? That fucking. He looks like him out the Cleveland show. What's his name? The astrologer guy. He's a Freemason. He sticks it right up your arse all the time. It's on his tap and his ringer fucking in the background. Again, we're in the realms of Freemasonry, right? I can speak freely because I've already fell out with me. Hence the trouble with the justice system, obviously. All I'm going to say is all roads lead to Rome.
Right, here you go on that one. And
everything. It's part of the Three Sister movement, right? You probably know and heard it anyway. The Vatican's the religious order of the new order. But all the Roman Catholic Church is, sorry Catholics, it's got nothing to do with Christianity. Have you ever listened to their mass? It's all to do with Lucifer. The symbolism throughout the Vatican is all symbolism. What it says outside is written in Latin. Everything inside is written in dog Latin, which means it doesn't exist. So there's another illusion.
Yeah.
There's a throne thing where it looks like fucking tortured bodies made into a throne that he sits in. And that as well, because you're going, oh, Papa, whatever you say when you're rattling your beads. He's got an inverted cross above him. The staff that the Pope carries is made of iron, so it's an iron cross. But if you look at it, the history in that, whatever it is, staff or whatever, Jesus he's crucified, but his knees are open, and that's a blasphemy, allegedly. And it was actually created by a paedophile sculptor or whatever. Same as the front of the BBC building. That was a paedophile that created that man and child at the front doors, above the front doors. That was a convicted paedophile. And they'd done many, many, many statues all over the world. And all over the world took them down, but the BBC insisted that they kept it. But again, they told us the adults are beasting the children within the BBC. So how can we go, oh, that's not right? They've been fucking telling us since the 50s. The thing's been there since 50.
What's amazing out of all this really is how much truth is already there, and we've already been told, and it's you could pick it off a tree like an apple, and yet it's still not common knowledge as such.
So here's my prediction for the next 5 to 10 years. In the next 5 to 10 years, it'll be acceptable to have a sexual persuasion and fancy and actions towards children, because there's transsexuals, everyone's all this sexual, demisexual, fluid, gender, queer. What the fuck? 97 different genders. No, there's 2.
Now, this is actually something I spoke to people about 20 years ago, and I got a lot of heat for. But I said, especially again, if you look at the way the Romans were. I mean, the Romans. We talked about the Romans earlier on, are a good example of it. But I said that you could make a society where paedophilia was considered to be the norm. It's already happened. It's already happened.
Sodom and Gomorrah was one of the epicenters, wasn't it? And it just depends what side of the fence you sit on, whether you believe the fire and brimstone and the sulphuric lakes and the Dead Sea. And I suppose there might be a bit of story there, but again, sorry, going back to words, history is only his story. Mm-hmm. That's all history means. Mm-hmm. It's his story. So the victor always writes the history.
Absolutely. And you've also only got to look at people even on the same side can't agree on the same story. So
exactly. You know, but the thing that gets me, as I say, just to quickly jump back to keeping an eye on Islam, they can't even get on amongst themselves. They've got a fucking divide between the Sunnis and the Shia.
Yeah.
So,
and they have no central power base, which is something they think is something to be proud of, and it actually means even worse.
They fucking hate each other with a passion, and see what's happening up and down this country. You're everywhere through this master plan. It's fucking horrific. You imagine going out for a quiet pint with your good lady, and next minute there's a fucking squad of 50 to 100 of these black bastards, and they all decide to take your missus away and rape her in front of you and wait until you've seen her pass out and then move on to you. That's the reality. I'm sorry if nobody's going to broach the subject. That is the reality of what's coming, because we're sitting in our hands. We're not doing anything. We're allowing them to walk about patrolling our streets and tell anybody that isn't a Muslim to get to fuck or they're going to kill them. How is that? What did your grandfather fight and die for that?
Well, that is this is the thing, and so with we talked off screen quickly about your grandfather and that what they fought for, and oh sorry, I'm losing my track again. It was something you brought up earlier. Oh no, and just how that's the other thing that's being taught to the youth now is to hate your country, hate your
flag.
Yeah,
flag.
Yeah.
Northern Ireland. I mean, obviously Northern Ireland being British, etc. The history they've had, etc. On the days, etc. of the anniversary, let's say, of the Battle of the Boyne, and the bands are out. The police service of Northern Ireland are ripping these things out of people's hands, and they're beginning to do it here. But they'll allow Palestinian flags, jihad flags, they're allowed anything because there's it's just the appeasers again, because it's part of the plan. These people in power, or so-called power, have been dictated to on a daily basis. Where it's coming from, there's always been a secret, I don't want to use that big word that's the same upside down in a tattoo, they're not in control. So all this spitting venom at Boris and Trump and whoever, Putin's meant to be a bastard, our biggest enemy. But again, that's just to keep us scared.
Well, the other thing, I'm not an expert on half the things that I cover, but I look at Putin and I think, well, if I was surrounded by what people who call me an enemy on every single fucking front, I think I would be the way he is, especially when I'd been through a war that lost me 25 million people as well. I'm not saying I'm a full Putin supporter. I don't know, because none of us do, but I do understand why they take the stances that they do over things. It's not
right. On you go. You there?
Oh, I'm here, buddy. I'm here. Yeah.
Putin and stuff like that. Again, it's where do we get our information? So we got a hope in hell of finding out 100% the truth. But we're not getting fed things like they're trying out this weather modification in the Middle East now and flooding out. Vietnam was a weather modification thing.
Mm-hmm.
They thought if they created all that rain, it would slow the fucking gooks down, and it didn't. It just fucked the Americans. Because they were only trying it out. The same as inoculations, it's just a trial. That's what it is. We'll not tell you that. We're going to fuck 900 different chemicals into you, and we'll see how you're in a week.
Yeah, I look at it as a big fucking experiment. I absolutely do with it, you know. Antibiotics as well. I fucking hate taking them, but there is sometimes that you feel that you need to take them, but you don't, because see, roughly 50% antibiotics are placebos anyway. So you're going, I'm taking them, I'll get better. No, you just get better. It's the same as the AIDS test, if you want. I know I'm skipping about, I'm just trying to put a couple of wee fruits out there. The AIDS test, you could go for an AIDS test in London now, fly to France, and it would be different. Now, what we've been told is, when we give blood, they're looking for the white cells, which means you've got an infection, right? Mm-hmm.
You've been told, oh fuck, you've got AIDS, because you've got the white cells. It turns out that the white cells, if the white cells are there, there's no problem. You don't need any help. Your body's fighting it.
Yeah,
Oh, it's as quick as they can get you onto AZT. Now, how did the boys with AIDS end up skinny as fuck and dying of all types of diseases? It's an anti-cancer drug. So they were having chemotherapy. Unwittingly.
Jesus.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, obviously, the AIDS was fucking created as well. That was created the day they called in Africa before the Ethiopia thing happened. And San Francisco, because they couldn't have the scourge of AIDS spreading about syphilis, etc. So they created this other virus, if you want.
So just
when they were getting other inoculations, this is far out, man. They were actually getting the AIDS virus put into them. They never had AIDS.
Fucking crazy. So I'm gonna jump in here and say I can't. Incredibly, I've added time on because of the shit show at the start that we had. And we're still hovering around 110, 119 minutes. So even if I took that off, we'd be about an hour and 10 minutes. So what I was going to do, because to the audience, we can't go back for all the questions. Every time I do that, it ends up being a total clusterfuck. So we're not going to do it. So what we'll do is in a minute we're gonna go to questions, comments, statements, whatever you want to do, and we're going to cover some of those. But before we do, and again, I want to sort of say, you know, obviously, Bodski's come on today. These are his opinions. ZeroNews opinions are our own, but the whole point is providing platforms. But I love this. To be able to do this, but
it's proper discourse.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a different opinion. It'll trigger some. Other people go, oh, still an element of truth there. Saying, I'll go and investigate. But our biggest problem is the fact we're complacency. We're just fucking lazy bastards.
Yes.
We'll go, I remember that. Then the fucking door goes or the phone goes and you forget about it. So that's just the
true. Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
So if I was
on medication because they've seen an indicator that you might be on the spectrum, but when the fuck did they start that? A spectrum? Oh, you could be here or you could be there. You're multiple personality disorder. Who said that? Right. So they get us medicated, and I'm under no illusion that they're fucking about with shit up in the sky as well. Now, whether it's for weather modification or to regulate the sun or whatever shite they want to hit us with, something's happening that's raining down on us as well. There used to be an old conspiracy that it was lithium they were spraying on us, which just kept us fucking stupid. It's just a heavy metal, isn't it? Just keep us stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. It was irresponsible things ever.
Do you never notice that as well? Well, I find it up here certainly, and it's usually Renfrew and Lanarkshire in Scotland that gets it. If there's a big crazy outbreak of avian flu or whatever, it always seems to be round about the area, so they must be doing something. Nobody else in Scotland gets it. You never hear it in the news or anything. But these two places always have folk dying or whatever else. Now, why is that just that wee area? You know, I think the first time they done any kind of bacterial warfare on us unsuspectingly was the back of an old Land Rover, I think it was, going down the M1. The road might be different, but fire and dust at the back.
Yeah.
And what they tried to tell people, or the public that was concerned, because obviously they were seeing hundreds of cars on the motorway.
Yeah.
They say that what they were trying to do was to see if this particular virus survived on spider webs. And we all went, I got it, that sounds viable, cool, I bet. You know what I mean? And they sprayed all this shite out today and expect they're doing it all the time. In the water, fluoride, who the fuck? They got together and decided with the dentist or that it helps your teeth. It does fuck all to do with preventing bacteria or any kind of caries in your teeth. Now, you ask a dentist, I've asked my dentist, what's this with fluoride, sodium fluoride? Oh, it protects your teeth, it's in toothpaste. I went, well, I'm no daft because I don't use fluoride. Well, why no? It's a byproduct of fertiliser. It's a byproduct. It's the waste of a fucking fertiliser production. It's that toxic. They can't put it in the air and they can't put it in the sea, in the federal whatever department or ecological department or whatever. They're saying you can't bury it. So years ago, somebody came up with an idea. Let's do a deal with the water board. And they've been doing it ever since. So, and that calcifies your brain. That stops you thinking.
So if I was to hit you with two more things before we go to some questions, one of them would be solutions. We've highlighted problems. Some solutions.
Solutions to what particular part?
Just a kind of if I was to ask you, say for a summary of some of the things that we've talked about today, what can we as people do? Is it a long-term plan that we need? Is it short-term plan? What do we need to do to even survive as free-thinking beings?
Mm-hmm.
How do we move forward?
On you go.
Sorry, how do we move forward and survive? And because everyone likes to say we can't beat the establishment, so I don't treat that as a truism for me, but for a lot of people it is. So it's like, well, if for me that if I work from that premise, well, I would just go and kill myself. So I have to think, you know, so I have to think a bit more upbeat than that. So what can we do? What can we do?
Bring back guns. What we need to do is, it's so fucking high up though, do you know what I mean? You never get, I mean, they're well protected, these people that are making the decisions in their everyday life. I used to joke with people when I first started kind of looking into this and down that old-fashioned rabbit hole, where it's just our own. We enslave ourselves due to the fact that we're scared. That's what it is. That's the bigger.
And lazy.
Aye. So there's a case of what I found at the beginning was you'd like, when we'll go out in the street and we'll do this. I can't at this time. I'll maybe come the next time.
Yep.
Right? And
yep.
Too much of that all day the next time bullshit, and there never is a next time.
100%.
Walking about, yes, okay, fair enough. Right. Go to London, there could be a million of us there. It's not going to make any difference. What it's going to do is shut down a couple of streets. Now, if you want to cause any kind of chaos, but you need everybody on board.
Yep.
Let's just take Monday off. Nobody goes to work.
And that makes sense to me. Instantly, as you said, it makes instant sense. That is a massive knock on the economy. It's a massive knock on everything that they give a shit about. That to me is like the perfect.
You need to then step up and say, right, now I've got your attention. We need to be more, do we need to get into the art of war?
So the problem I'm having when I'm talking to people is that they seem to be saying that this is the problem, is that they're scared to stand up because maybe their family doesn't agree with their political affiliations or whatever. And so a lot of people are actually scared of the people around them. And that's an issue if you want to stand up and be counted.
Well, again, I'll put to you, if you're driving along a street and you come to traffic lights and a cop car pulls up beside you, what's the first thing you think? Have I done everything all right? I've not done anything right. I've not on my phone. You go through everything. You're scared of the police. The police were never put there to be a threat to us.
Mm-hmm.
But when they decided to fuck about with the words like, they're no longer constables, they're officers. You've got to think officer, office. So they just work in an office. So they're just administration. So these people are coming up, chat the door, and, all right, China, out the water, right? They haven't got any rights. They're just a man or a woman in a fucking costume. But because we've been miseducated, programmed, whatever word you want to use, we bow to these cretins. We give one name, well, what we think's one name, you know, and I beg Andy to turn around and say, oh no, I was born, whatever, blah, blah, and your full name on your birth certificate. Nobody calls you your second name, unless it's Mister. But somebody calling you Mister is actually the lowest office within a ship. Mister is the lowest form, so it's actually an insult if somebody calls you Mister.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So before we give over to the audience, and obviously I'm going to be looking for stuff on there, but if there's anything you look catches your eye, feel free. But one last thing I'd say, so it's just simply this: if you had to get out in just a few sentences, if you had to get out in just a few sentences, especially as we've said, we're on one leg of the octopus today, one arm of the octopus, so.
Well, I've gave these snippets of different
yeah.
But
so if you,
I think you need to excuse me. This is my first Virgin tour, so
no, you're doing great. You're doing great. So if you was to get out in a few sentences, what your message would be to people right now? What would it be? What would it be if you had to condense something down? I know that's difficult, but that's why I'm asking. You had to condense it down and say some things to people. What would it be?
Right. We're going about it wrong. We need to sit and think about this. I mean, I could go in for fucking days, weeks about this, different things. But we really need to be thumbing through books, or whether it's the internet or whatever, and going down these avenues, finding out how you can. There's a way of taking it, right? See your triangle that you see everywhere, your pyramid and everything. What that symbolises or signifies is your master at the top. And there only is two options for us. We're either the debtor or the creditor. And because we keep representing that bit of paper, which is known as your birth certificate, keeps you a debt slave. Nobody will deal with you as a man or a woman because you're a debt slave. Through your own complacency, basically. What we need to try and do is educate people change, because you're in charge of that invisible trust.
We need to keep
that trust is there, not for you to take money out of. And a lot of people done that. Free man in the land, sovereign citizen done it. UCC, one form in America. They thought that if they wrote to the Secretary of State, do this, that, and then all of a sudden they've got access to this money. And technically what they were trying to do was a fraudulent claim against the Federal Reserve. But there's a way of getting your credit back, which I'll touch on the next time. I'm only kidding.
Let me just address Paul O and just say to you, my friend, this is called free speech. That's why the platform is here, to allow everyone with every type of opinion a chance to speak. That's it. No more complicated than that. So, with that, let's go over.
Conspiracy people. I've only just read it. Conspiracy people. Well, ask me questions.
I'll tell you what. Yeah. Sorry to jump in. Yes, Paul. Even nonsense. If someone wants to come on and talk about fucking fairies flying around their bedroom every single day, then yeah, it's free speech.
No. Listen, it's easy. I've been at this side as well. It's easy for people to fire out this keyboard terrorism shite. Don't dismiss it. Ask me the question. So ask a particular question and I'll fucking answer it.
Just to engage, yeah. So ask the question. So just to engage this person one more time. So more for me. So what would you do? Deplatform people. That's what you would do. The idea then for you is to make sure that people who don't agree with you, who sound to you like conspiracy theorists, don't have a platform.
Oh, where's Agent Marky in, man?
Well, brilliant, Paul. You've just taken the first step towards complete and utter ignorance, because you have to have the free speech and have to have people who may not agree with you, who may say things that you don't like. That's the point. That is the point. And if you've missed it, more for you, fella. More for you. Right.
I'm well aware that I come on here and there would be a bit of pushback. But if you're going to push back, ask me a particular question. If I can't answer it, then dismiss me. Don't just fire out some fucking, oh, that's a load of nonsense, more fool you. What's that all about? You've listened to me from the beginning. So keep listening, you might find your answer. Otherwise, fuck off. I'm trying to tell you to help you. I'm not telling you to just fuck your head up and so that you tell your granny this out of a cup of tea and a fucking rich tea biscuit. Yeah. I'm telling you this to help you. I'm not coming around here just to fire out this stuff that sounds like nonsense in the first hand, but don't just fucking fire out insults and push against it. Ask me a question.
Yeah, and the thing of it is,
how free speech is this, you prick?
Yeah.
A question.
Absolutely. I said just this the other day. People talk about free speech, they don't even know what the fuck it is. I would have someone from the far left on this show to speak happily, because that's what it is. It's about getting people around the table.
Wait a minute. Let's address this. Let's address it, man. You've picked with the wrong race to be noising me up, man.
So that again, sorry.
Okay, Toothy, wait a minute. What's wrong with my teeth? I've got all my teeth, pal. What's wrong? Is the back methadone ripped yours out? Ask me a fucking question, why
yeah. So to everyone else, let's bring some stuff in, because I actually know there's been a lot of people on board from all kinds of angles to what you've been saying. So
obviously, with the short space of time that we've had, Tom, and technical issues, etc., I'm trying to cram. All I'm doing is cramming, and I understand that the listeners, watchers will be going, we stop jumping about different subjects.
You've actually had quite a good response, actually.
That's the way I work. If you hang about long enough, instead of firing no fucking stupid lines that are meant to insult adults, I'm like, oh, your comments are scathing. Fuck off.
So
say something intelligent.
Exactly. So you got Looney W here. It says, Bodski, has being awake to stuff not made you feel a bit nuts? Serious question.
Does it make me feel nuts? Of course it does, because I can't believe it, so I can't expect you guys to believe it straight away, but don't just go, that mere conspiracy theories. Right, okay, fair enough. If it's a conspiracy theory, prove that it's a conspiracy theory. Don't just fire off shit. If you haven't got the balls to ask me a question, hit me with something that goes against what I'm saying. Otherwise, fuck off. Well, what? Do you know what I mean? I've sat myself and watched, and I've been given into trouble, Tom. Right? Coming on too strong. I'm putting out a lot of fucking work into this to try and help people. No, I'm not helping people. Fuck you. If you believe what I'm saying, go and look it up. If it's wrong, come back and challenge me.
Yeah.
I don't take lightly to stupid fucking wee boys hiding behind a laptop, a computer, whatever.
It's actually that's something we talked about before coming on as well, but we didn't get very far into it, and it's discourse doesn't happen like this on the streets, because the underlying threat of violence is one of the things. that people don't like to talk about, but it's a primal thing. But it's only on the internet that you can come and be a complete dick wank and get away with it because there's little consequence. Now, not that I'm willing to mess with people's free speech, but my point being is people wouldn't speak to you the same way face to face. It's just a fact that we know.
I know.
Very sad,
Yes.
very, very sad. But the shame is on the person.
Paul's wanting to know because I've got no answers. Ask me the question. How can I answer something? What, I'm no fucking psychic.
Yeah. And so I mean, you got people like Jackie Price and that here who's saying the more awake you are, the more that you see, and I think that's very good actually.
It's not including my mental health issue, mate. Paul, listen, I embrace my mental health issue. If I wasn't mental, I wouldn't be fucking learning this stuff. So who is mental after all? Me or you?
So you got a guy called Toddy. He's saying, when was the birth certificate brought in, and what was before? That's a good question.
When was the first story? What?
So he said, when was the first birth certificate brought in, and what was before? What came before that?
Right, the straw man thing, if you can bear with me seconds, I'll find it. But basically the premise is a guy called Colonel Mandel House. You can check this, Paul. Go on the Google and check it. Check while I'm talking to you. Right. Edward Mandel House, who invented this. Approximately 1912. It was around about the same time they scrapped the gold and silver backed money. Orchestrated by, I dare I say it, the Rothschild family. That's when they started it. They created this. So every born human was basically chattel.
Yeah, that's totally true.
It's an enslavement. It's basically an enslavement. That's what it is. It's so fundamental and so cunning, but it took them a while to work it out, but obviously they've got it. And even Paul's a slave. Paul's a slave as well. A fucking dumb slave, because he's not open. He's not open to anything. So
unfortunately, and that's the thing though, is that's the kind of person that, if you're right about everything, that's the kind of person that you need to reach. And that's the interesting problem, isn't it? How to reach out to people that will get triggered by, you said it yourself, they get triggered by certain words that you even say. And I'm one of those people. I will get triggered by, if someone says Illuminati to me, I can switch off. You know,
I was exactly the same. You know, dumb, ignorant. Listen, they've created a life that we've been led to believe that we must go out and work and earn money, but not only earn money, we're taxed. Oh, everybody pays tax. You've got to pay tax. No, taxation was brought in to stave the robber barons kicking fuck out the peasants. It was also brought in as a control structure. It's also brought in for, you were only meant to get taxed on your wages if there was a war. We're not at war. No, in the first hand, we're not at war. But there was a state of emergency declared fucking years ago, decades ago, that we're in a perpetual state of emergency.
Hey, Lenny W, to make you feel a bit better, that don't worry. There was no venom coming towards you. That was a conflated question there. So don't worry. Relax. It was taken the right way. So this is just have a quick look. So it's not
right. The birth certificate. I've just noticed that the column the birth certificate. If you don't register your child, right, as the child grows up, you'll know, like, obviously the parents wouldn't be eligible for benefits because the child doesn't exist as far as they're concerned. So how can you, that's like a fraud. Oh, I've got 3 children when you've got none. So you've got to register it to be able to be eligible for benefits, etc. Throughout life, parents having family allowance, whatever it is, working credits, etc. You wouldn't be eligible for that because the child didn't exist. The one good thing for that is you don't need to force a child to take inoculations. You also don't need to really tell them the bullshit in the curriculum. Isn't it strange that you get to jail if you take a kid out during the actual school time. Why? Who are they got the right to tell you what they're doing with your children? Because it's no your fucking children.
I hear you, buddy. I hear you.
Right, so birth certificate, yes. If you don't register the child, you are not eligible, your children. So in other words, when it comes to the time of going to work, what's your national insurance number? Fuck knows what's that. That's your enslavement number tied to the birth certificate. Is that digit you've got in the card? That's your imbecilic slavery card.
So this is the sorry to jump. This is the question Bolton's asking, but it was a question I wanted to ask you as well. And I'm glad he's reminded me. What is your opinion about Scottish independence?
I'm not interested. Not interested. Listen, I've never seen Alex Salmond and Nicola Sturgeon in the same fucking room. I think it's the same person. She's a fucking despot. Surely, listen, she's the same age as me and she lived just 2-3 towns away from me. She didn't come for anything, but she was groomed. See, like the likes of Roman Catholic Church and the priests. There was a time, I don't know if they still do it, they used to go to like the kind of poverty-stricken family and take like the wee boy of 7 or 8 and take him away and bastardise him in every fashion into the church, etc. Indoctrination all the time, locked in the room with these dirty old bastards. Do you know what I mean? Interfered with, broken down. Do you know what I mean? The young boys that become priests, I guarantee that the masters or handlers could make the boys defecate on order, on command. But again, that brings it back to the paedophile thing. I predict that that's what's coming.
Yeah.
So it's going to eventually get to, pedosexuals, no, it's all right as long as you don't do this, blah, 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 blah. And that's coming. Why not? Because they've been doing it for fucking thousands of years, pumping children.
Yeah. It's interesting. Right. By the way, everyone, was that the legitimate secret Nazi sausage we had on earlier on, or was it a copycat? Just curious for my own amusement. So Eric says, Bodski, are people or organisations deliberately using social media to undermine trust in democracy? How can that be combated?
One, how do you combat? Right. Dare I say it? We don't live in a democracy, and the sooner you realise that, the better. There's nothing to do with our government that's got anything to do with democracy. We are meant to have a say. They can't tell us what to do unless we consent to it. But they just keep firing through rules and laws and regulations and fuck knows all. We'll just add that. They don't tell you until you've committed the crime. Go, oh, that's against the law, mate. What? What are you talking about?
You've got Agent Markey, actually. It says homeschooling is the way forward. In fact, look at government legislation. Your child's education is your responsibility at all times. I actually really like that as a point.
Tell me one thing that you were taught at school that you can use in the rest of your life. What is valuable that we were taught at school? Tell me one thing. For me,
very little. Fucking very little.
Nothing. I suggest nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
Here's one to think about. The spinning globe. This will set the cat among the pigeons, but I'm fucking ready for these. Every school, primary school, it was one of the biggest items that was put in the classroom was this big spinning globe, right? We never went to the moon, allegedly, to 1969. Now, how did they know what the globe looked like for outer space if they'd never been in space? It was around about the same time. All right, Universal Studios has had a spinning globe since 1919, might be a bit earlier than that. How did they know that that's what the world was as part of the indoctrination? We don't live in a spinning ball. You seen a fucking ball with it's soaking wet spinning? You spin your dog's ball with water in it. All the water comes off in streams. Makes, if you want to spin it fast enough, it's a toroidal field if you want.
Mm-hmm.
How can we possibly be living on a spinning ball that's spinning at 66,600 miles an hour? We're fucking telling you, it's just it's a fake, it's a hoax. Water level. If we were spinning ball, nothing liquid would ever find a level. What's the most accurate measure? Water level. Horizon, horizontal. Oh my God, man. I've opened a different can of worms.
That's why you're here. Is why you're here.
Challenge me. Seriously, challenge me. I know I'm sounding arrogant as fuck, but it's just.
Well, no, that's where you've come on. So look, guys. Again, you know, but Bodski knows, right, from before we even got on here, and again, I want to just reinforce this, right? We had a potential secret Nazi come on and say, "Oh, conspiracy." Whatever you believe, right? This is an exercise in free speech between two people that when me and Bodski first spoke, we both agreed that we may not have the same opinions on some things. That is one of the biggest exercises being done here, because this is what needs to be done more and more and more and more between people who've got slight differences to massive differences in opinion. That to me is almost as valuable as the content of whatever comes out. It's really important.
Let's address a couple of these Earth things, because I knew that would be a trigger to finalise. Right, go for it. Ask me the questions. Galileo challenged his hundreds of years ago. Isn't it strange that we all believed, mankind believed up to roughly the 1500s that the world was flat? In 500 years, we've had it's a spinning ball. Prove it. That's all I can say. Prove it to me. And then I'll disprove it for you.
So Darren Wooden is asking, he says, ask about settlement certificates.
Oh, no, I don't know. Don't know.
Me, but that's a new term to me as well. So
settlement. No, I've never touched on it. Yeah, as I said the other night in a message, I don't profess that I know everything. But ask me and test me so that I learn more, because you're doing the research that I've already done. Don't just fire out shite, right? Hold on. Does the sun move or does the earth spin? The sun and the moon spins. Oh God, man, this is a different topic, totally different topic. You'll not get me in this. You'll not get me in this. But carry on.
No.
We're starting. Listen, for those that believe in the religion of any sort, whether they believe that or not, it even says in that book, man, that when God created it, it was four corners, it was on pillars, it was immovable. There's no moving. No moving. Fucking hell, man. Do you feel any movement? Oh, but what about gravity? No. Prove it. There's no such thing as, in theory, yes, they can say, oh, these figures all accumulate and it proves gravity. It's a load of pish. How does things fall? Because of the weight that's in the thing that's fallen.
I mean, for me, the thing, you know, if I was to come at you with one of my opinions, the things like the theory of relativity should be why we don't feel movement.
Yeah. It's theories, or what we keep going for is these theories. It's like Brian Cox.
But how do you have an opinion on something that is conceptual, or how can you prove something that is maybe logistically always going to be impossible because you can't be the size of that object, or do you know what I mean? There has to be some room in between for. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm one of the first people to say there's too many theories that we take as fact. Don't get me wrong.
Well, we've believed that we landed on the moon. We believe that we're free. We believe that there's a national health service to keep us healthy. A court system there to serve as justice. Everything's just a fucking. Dare I say it? Is that what the term the Matrix? I do not know. But they didn't call the World Wide Web for nothing. It's a net that captures it. Listen, that's what's happening. 5G is just going to control everything that we're fucking doing, saying, and everything. That sounds like a conspiracy, but we're not far away from it. Mind control. voice to head fucking technology. Yeah. How do you think all these crazy bastards are running about shooting people? Do you think they'd psychological defect, they'd mental health issues? No, they look fucking mental.
Well, they've actually, I mean, I've actually seen they need, at the moment, the way the technology stands, they need to be able to implant into your head, but they don't have to. There's an experiment been done where they have put these sensors on the outside of people's heads. Like I said, they don't get as good a signal, but they can map the images in your mind. It's rough. It's like watching a VHS, but it's undeniable what they can see, and that's what they're willing to show. So,
see, when you were talking about how can you get far enough away to prove whatever, blah blah, right? The other misconception is there's things spinning about outside our atmosphere that's projecting communications, etc., etc. Pish. If there was that many fucking satellites, how come you never see them for the ISS with the picture of the fucking Earth? You never see bits of metal hurtling through the space because it's all CGI. Wake up! Wake up! Why have we got transmitters in land? Oh, that's to boost the signal. No, that's our communications. There's no curve in the planet either. It's all flat so they can all talk to each other. They can't go round the bend, or they would need to be at a certain height to project round the bend. There's laser guys that have done it 50 to 100. I think 213 miles was the longest in a laser Florida light. And you can still see the fucking laser going miles. Now, scientifically, that doesn't accumulate towards a ball spinning Earth.
Hey Bolton, just jumping. I just want to back you up there about the timing out business. It's not that ignorance isn't free speech. Spamming a chat with your nonsense is, because he's stopping other people from talking and getting in. So good call, mate. Sorry, mate. So Bodski, so this is from Jackie Price. Bodski, what do you think about chemtrails? They're getting worse every year.
The problem is we're using language like chemtrails. You'll never get anybody's attention if you're speaking that language. It's geoengineering, and it's happening. It's been happening. They've confessed it happening. But because we're looking at chemtrails, we're picking up the conspiracy theories. It's the wrong word. It's geoengineering. There's plenty of evidence for it, and the shite they're putting in it. They're not caring. Sure, 5G's been rushed through and they've not had the scientific evidence of how it fucking affects biology. They've just went, money, you fucking dancer. Fire it through. We'll not wait for the damaging reports. Just fire it through. They're not interested in money. Greedy bastards for money that's not even backed with fuck all.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Yeah, it's just
so Bodski, people let me know that you're looking pretty dark there. It's going dark on you, but we've got about 4 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen. So any good questions, get them up now, please.
I better put the light on so that Paul can see my toothies or something. Fucking vagrant.
There we go.
Is that your mum's phone you're on, son? Listen, seriously, don't take on a Scotsman in a fucking chat. Seriously. Forget, we're the only country in the planet. Oh, the plain T. They can use the word cunt in an everyday sentence.
Yeah.
So don't be a cunt.
It's funny, I get told off so much for it, but it's just like, I fall straight back into that language so easy.
It's a word. What's the point in moaning about free speech if you can't use words?
Absolutely. So you timed out because you were spamming, Paul. Spamming stops other people from their free speech. Your free speech is not more important than other people's. Learn it.
Maybe if it changed hands.
Maybe if there's nothing else you learn from today, it's this: your free speech is not worth more than the man next to you. Go fuck yourself.
Listen, I'm only spitting some sort of fucking information. It's up to anybody else to go and look at it. If I'm talking pish, come and tell me I'm talking pish. And then I'll have an argument with you.
Well, this is even something we talked about before we even came on, wasn't it? I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to agree with you. And you're like, We were both like, well, it doesn't matter. The point of it is, you know, it doesn't matter, and that's the beauty of it. What I am more interested in why a person would listen to this. If they don't like it, turn it off. But when I see someone triggered, it's like, well, why? Why have you got your panties in a twist about something you just don't agree with? I find that very interesting.
Well, it's a simple fact that they choose to stay for over an hour to eventually pluck up the courage to come out with some nonsensical comment about, you're talking pish, it's a conspiracy theory, blah, 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 who cares, I don't care. You're still fucking typing though. You're still here, so either way, you've been either entertained, and if you're not been entertained, tough.
There you go.
Just go off the channel.
There you go. There you go. I love that. I love that. I think we're going to be up to our time limit, and but guys, it's up to you. We've got the position we're in is obviously we've got the weekend coming up, and that's going to keep me busy. But after that, if we want to continue this conversation, it's up to you guys to let us know. Let us know if you want to continue conversation, because in all fairness, whatever I think of Bodski's opinion, whatever you think, we've given him. It's so difficult on the internet because everyone's got so little time, but he's had so little time to create a premise for the things that he wants to talk about, let alone go into detail about it. So
I think if we get some sort of questions, etc., for potential next time or whatever. Obviously, I've been spitting out a smorgasbord of different bits of information and not really backing it up. But again, if people needed that backup, they'd be asking me, which most have been making kind of reasonable comments, etc. Obviously, we're going to get a couple of wankers and ghosties and some... Listen, that could be an old woman sitting in Tennessee. We don't know. Just because it says Paul doesn't mean it's a Paul. That might be a wee Indian guy sitting in fucking Madras. Well, shoes on, trying to sew something with his mouth.
One thing I've learned about the internet with people, and I don't want to take this away from Paul for a minute, but just with people in general, is it's never who you think. It's never who you think. And that's not conspiracy. It's never who you think. Look at the people, and I use Tommy Robinson because he's like my nearest example I can think in my head. The amount of times that he's been trolled by what looks like a 19-year-old, and then he goes out and finds it's a bank manager or somebody who runs a solicitors. That's
I sit in nappy eating baby food. Totally.
So what we do want to do is apologise to you, Bodski, and to everyone else for the shit show of a start that we had today. And I really am sorry about that. And for the resulting loss in quality that we've had since. But we've worked around it, and at least we've got the interview out there. And again, to apologise to my audience as well. I really do apologise for the the way it's gone today, but at least we've got it out. I didn't want to let you guys down, and neither did Bodski. So we fought to the very end to try and get it out the other way, but time was ticking, so we had to get on one way or another. So I think we're all about done there. I just want to say thanks for coming on. Because the thing is, what some people may not appreciate is how difficult it is to come on to a thing like this. You've never done this before. To come on to a thing like this. To do this, have your opinion, say it, and have it ridiculed, which you were totally prepared for. Totally prepared for, and it's actually quite a big thing. I've got more respect for. I mean, it was the Voltaire principle. I've talked about this before. About defending people even if you don't agree with them, their right to free speech, and that to me is the beautiful thing that we're trying to create, and I find it very fascinating watching the different reactions towards it. And I'm warmed to say that there's actually more what's the word? There's more positivity to it than negativity. So
the main thing I would maybe remember is it's just my opinion, but don't diss it until you find the evidence that contradicts every word that I'm saying. Otherwise, you've got to remember, think about individually before you were awakened before you realised that shit wasn't right, before you started looking into things, and then you found out stuff, or the conspiracies or whatever term you want to use, and then you realise that they're true, you might just be a couple of years behind me. That's all.
That's the other interesting thing, isn't it? Is to ask anyone: have you never been in a situation where you thought you knew it, when you thought you had a situation pegged down, when you thought you had the information, and then you suddenly found out you were completely wrong? And if anybody out there hasn't had that, Jesus Christ, I don't know what bubble you're in, but for most of us, we have. And that's the situation you find yourself when you have conversations like this. That's what they're there to challenge you to do. Whether right, wrong, whatever. It's about challenging yourself. That's all it is. So...
Well, and that's what they don't want. That's the whole point of shutting down free speech, because they know that people are talking the way I'm talking.
And the other thing as well is that they realise as well that people... Sorry, that people with differing opinions can come together and make a much larger force. If they can, if people with different opinions can talk, then they can sit around a table and suddenly they can work together.
Listen, that's the way of the world. That's what Tavistock Society, Chatham House has been doing for hundreds of years, sitting talking to each other, debating how the best way to unravel this plan. We've been doing it for years. My childhood gay just meant that you were happy, tear-free. Now all of a sudden it means that you'd fucking stuff ferrets up a chutney. Just, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Young lad, listen, before I go, I need to tell you this now. I'm pushing 50, and I only found out, and I mentioned it earlier on to see if it triggered MD. Portuguese breakfast. I only found that out on Sunday what that was.
Go on, because you admit that. I needed to know. I'm not going to let you go without telling me now.
Oh, no, I can't say it on here. Fuck it. Fuck it. Right. Portuguese. Oh, God. Right, I'll tell you.
Oh, no. This sounds bad now.
Right, when you and your good lady, I wouldn't like to take it if it was like you and your boyfriend, but anyway, petrol. After a night of passion in the morning, what you do is you get up and the girl does a handstand and you crack some eggs into a poontang. And then you add other things, then you fuck her, and the heat creates the albumin to turn into an egg, then what she does is squat out of a plate, and then you eat it.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, I wish I'd never asked. Oh my God.
That was a bit more intricate.
How the fuck did you find that out? How did you even find that out?
I just started seeing this new girl, and if he done the WhatsApp thing, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? And he's like, I've just had my breakfast. And I went, right, what do you tell me for?
Oh.
It was a Portuguese breakfast. And I went, not, but it's obviously something pervy, right? So I've looked up and it's fired up images like peas and fried eggs.
Oh, Jesus. Oh.
And then you go to the Urban Dictionary, it's a different story.
Well,
There's many different variations of how you carry out the technique, but I'll let you read that.
Yeah, I'll leave that. I've more than
else you learned and absorbed that. It's repugnant, man.
Oh, Jesus. You've just ruined my night's sleep. You know that, don't you? You've ruined my night's sleep. So, thanks for that.
For your supper.
Okay, on that note, on that very strange note to finish, again, I say thanks to everyone for coming on. Really do appreciate it. And thank you, Bodski. Really appreciate your time as well, buddy. And we'll see. Hopefully we'll do this again.
Yes. I suppose we'll have to. If nothing else, just to wind Paul up.
Yeah.
Marky's all right because he's abusing Paul and Paul's abusing him, so they'll sort their shit out themselves. Right, take it easy, guys.
You take care, brother. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Right, guys, let me just turn this around. So, a free speech experiment continues. And, whether you agree with Bodski or disagree with him, I find him quite a likable guy, and I think that's for me the part that I find so easy to tune into, because I just find him to be a likable guy. So there's stuff all the way through. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. Some of it I'm not so sure, all the way. But it's I find him quite easy to listen to. Um, and if I didn't, that would be even more reason to listen. And I think that's so when I hear people coming on and not just today, I'm talking about all kinds of times, giving their definition of freedom of speech. This is exactly why I've said you never want to give that kind of power to the government, because everyone's got their definition of freedom of speech. And I think the only definition you can have is freedom of speech should be left the fuck alone, so that we can talk. Because you see, there's a spectrum of views about the way someone like Bodski speaks, from that's bollocks to yeah, agree with everything, and all the way in between. And it's like the way you get people who really disagree around the table is to have conversations and prove to other people those conversations can happen until eventually you've got a real eclectic group of people around the table that maybe can solve a few problems. It takes every mind out there to solve problems. So, you know, I, for one, appreciate the courage it takes to come on here and do this. You'd be surprised, a lot of people talk the talk, and when it comes to the interview, they don't even make the interview, and if they do, they clam up. And there's no, by the way, there's no disrespect to them, but they clam up and they find it very, very difficult. It's very, very different talking about it to doing it. So I've got respect for anybody that comes on and does that. And so for me, Bodski's been a star because he's come on, he's said what he thinks, and he's pulled no punches. You can't ask for any more than that from any human being. So, fair play. And again, thanks for coming on. And I am so sorry for the way we started off today. What I'll do tonight or tomorrow, when this is uploaded properly, is I'll cut the first 10 minutes off so that it starts off properly. So we'll do that, because honestly, it was really do apologise to start. And this effing equipment that keeps messing with me, I'm going to get this sorted out once and for all. But I'm going to need someone to help me practice with it while we're not doing this, because the problem with half of this is time. We're trying to compress this all into too much time. So my focus is now going to be on the weekend. How many podcasts we do between now and the weekend, I don't know. I'm not going to consign myself to anything, because after everything going wrong on there today, that was actually quite a stress, because I was really worried about letting you guys down and Bodski down. So I'm going back to thanks with a little bit of help from Bolton. I think I've got my stuff, my kit constructed for Saturday. So I'm going to go ahead with that, and we've got some other things that may be exciting little announcements. We're going to just make sure first. And just to give you an idea, Bolton, we've got an answer to an email. So sit on that one until we finish. But thanks everyone for coming on. Everyone, I really appreciate it. Whatever you believe, it doesn't matter. It's so much appreciated for everyone coming on. Thanks so much. My name is Storm Fury. This is Zero News. I'm calling it a day for now. Watch out for the secret Nazis.